Yeah, so I'm audible? Yeah, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thanks. Yeah. So I thought of discussing this simple poem today, so which is kind of very important for you all to know, like the O-level syllabus and if the exams are nearing nowadays, right? Like you'll be facing your exams in the next January, I guess. So the date is not yet sure, but still you have to focus on your studies, right? Yeah. Uh, so, so Richard Cory, yeah, Richard Cory is by Edwin Arlington Robinson, right? So, what do you know about Edwin Arlington Robinson before starting the poem? Yeah, Mohammed, you can unmute yourself or else use a chat, whatever. Yes. If you talk back, it will be easy and it will be interactive. Yes. Yes. What do you know? What do you know about Edwin Arlington Robinson? Yeah, anyone from here who know him, like other works of him or where he is from and stuff? Any specific thing you know about Edwin Arlington Robinson? He's the poet of this poem, right? The Richard Cory, the poem Richard Cory is by Edwin Arlington Robinson. So you have to know one or two things about this particular person. Yeah, Fatima Shazma. Okay, okay, so that's okay. So this person that is Edwin Arlington Robinson, we also can call him Robinson or Edwin. Okay, Edwin. He is actually an American poet. So he was one of the famous American poet at that time. Okay, he was prolific means like famous, well-known person in that era during his period. Like there were many poems at the same time when he was writing poems, but still he was very famous. Okay, so Edwin Arlington, he's an American poet. That is very important for you all to know. And then about the title. So what do you know about the title? So who is this Richard Cory, right? Who is Richard and who is Cory? So it's Richard Cory. It's one name, right? It's a name, and this is the poem about this particular person who is known as Richard Cory. So here, Edwin Arlington Robinson has said, like he have mentioned the poem in the point of view of himself, who he is a person from the payment. Okay, he is a middle class person. He is a middle class, poor class person, middle class or poor class person. So from his point of view only, we see this poem. So the perspective of writing this poem is from the perspective of a payment person. Okay, that is a person from the payment, or else we can say a poor class person. So that is the narrative style here used here. Okay, so the point of view here is or the narrative style here is from the point of view of the payment person, a middle class or a poor class person. Okay, so these things, and also you should know about the tone of the poem, right? These are simple things they ask in context questions, which is very important and very easy to do. The context questions, like they only give you like 3 or 4 questions consisting of 5 marks, right? And they ask, so they'll give you 2 lines from the poem, and you have to identify from which poem they have taken those lines, and also to write the writer's name of that poem. So if they have taken this particular lines with the context, they'll be asking who wrote them and what is the poem from, right? So you have to write Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. So, and also very important, you have to write the Richard Cory within quotation mark. That's a must because it's not our work. It's a thing that is done already, right? So we have to give respect to that. So Richard Cory or any other poem's name should be within quotation mark. Okay, so that is important. So yeah, I can start explaining this poem now, right? Because this isn't at all a hard poem with simple language used, right? There isn't anything hard words used here. It's very simple, and even the pattern they have written is very simple. You see, we have only four, four stanzas, right? 4 stanzas, and each stanza contains only 4 lines, right? 4 lines, 4 stanzas. Okay, 4 stanzas, each containing 4 lines. So see, it's a simple structure poem. Okay, like it's very simple in nature. Okay, so I have provided a summary in this note in this tude itself, so it will be easy when you refer later. But for now, I'll start explaining the poem. Later, if you have time, you can refer those notes. And also, I have included all techniques, themes, and also some questions, essay type, and also some context questions related to this particular poem. So it will be very easy, and you don't need to study this poem again if you refer like this, okay, with all things together. Okay, so that is how I usually teach my students. So it will be easy if you do like this, right? So this poem by Edwin Arlington Robinson, he has started the poem like whenever Richard Cory went downtown. So here only we identify that Richard Cory is a person, right? Richard Cory is a person who have gone downtown. So what does this downtown means? That means they have 2 classes, right? They have upper class and lower class. That is up maybe rich and poor people, right? There are 2 types of people here. That's what this downtown refers. Okay, there are rich and poor people in the place where Richard Cory lives. Okay, so whenever Richard Cory went downtown, so maybe he lives in the upper part of the life. That means maybe he is rich. So we didn't know about him personally, right? But still we can say that he is a person who belongs to the rich class people because he went downtown maybe to do something like to purchase something, right? Maybe he have go to the marketplace, right? So anything like that. So he belongs to a rich upper class person, like he is a high class person, right? Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people. So what does this we refer? We symbolize the people in the pavement, right? When you go on reading, you'll understand it's the people in the pavement, or else you can say it's the poor class people. Poor class people. So we here symbolizes the poor class people, which is very important for this poem. Okay, because we don't have any other characters in this poem. It's Richard Cory and the poor class people, which is also he's like even the narrator Edwin Arlington Robinson. He is also a representative from this poor class person. Like he also belongs to that class of people. He isn't a rich class person in this poem. Okay, so we people on the pavement looked at him. So pavement means that they are very poor, right? The people who are beggars in a way, right? Like normally beggars are the one who lives in pavement, right? So that means they are very poor in condition. Financially they are poor, they don't have enough clothes, they don't have food to eat, water to drink, right? And they might look dirty also. because they don't have anything to make up their self, right? To make up their self to look pleasant to others and to look attractive to others because they don't have even proper meal for a day. How can they afford clothes, right? So we people on the pavement looked at him. He here symbolizes Richard Cory, right? Richard Cory. Uh, so he here symbolizes Richard Cory, which is so we can see there are symbolism used in this part, right? Symbolism is a technique used in poetry, not only in poetry but all the other genres of literature. Okay, so he is a symbolism used for Richard Cory. He was a gentleman. So normally, who is a gentleman? Who do we look as a gentleman normally? Yeah, any perspectives, or any thoughts on a gentleman? Who do you think a gentleman is? Yeah, Shahna, Rizwan, and Muhammad. Yeah, can you use the chat or you can use your mic also. Yeah, who is a gentleman? So, in your perspective, who is a gentleman? Okay, so normally I think, okay, in my perspective, I think a gentleman to be brave, okay, kind enough, okay, and also to be humble in his words, in his actions, in his manners, right, with no attitude in him, right? So that is how a gentleman should be, right? Very kind and humble, right? In here we have Richard Cory, who is very humble, sweet, kind to the people. Okay, so here the author, Edwin Arlington Robinson, he says Richard Cory was a gentleman from soul to crown. Soul to crown means from top to bottom. That means from his head to toe. Okay, from his head to toe or from his birth till now. Okay, so in his entire life, he was a gentleman. So see the use of past tense here, right? It's so here only we can get to know that this is a flashback. So flashback is also a technique used in this point. So far we have symbolism and flashback in this point. Okay, as techniques. Okay, so he was a gentleman from soul to crown, clean flavored and imperially slim. So clean flavored means he was like very attractive in nature. That means like he dresses himself perfectly. Okay, like he is clean enough, not like the beggars in the payment. Okay, he is so that is contrast, right? Payment people, we people on the payment, and this clean flavored Richard Curry is been contrasted, right? Contrast is also a technique where two different things are being compared and shown to the reader. Okay, contrast. Contrast is also a technique used in this part. Okay, clean flavored is he was very clean in nature. The dress was clean, his body was clean, his hair was nicely combed and gelled, right? That is clean flavored. And imperially slim, that means he wasn't fat and he wasn't slim either, like I mean he wasn't that thin either. He wasn't neither thin or fat. That is the perfect body shape, right? To be in perfect shape, right? Yeah, and he was pure, right? He was a pure soul, right? Imperialism means internally, internally and outwardly, like both inside and out, right? Yeah, can you please mute your mics?
தூங்க போறீங்களா? என்னைட்டு தூங்குறீங்களா? வரீங்களா? அலாவ பெட்ல போட்டு நீங்க என்னைட்டு தூங்குறீங்களா?
Sorry about that, but make sure you mute your mics, okay? Yeah, it will be better if you mute your mic so that we'll have a pleasant environment to study. Okay. So, yeah, so he was impurely slim. That means he was internally and outwardly, he was like a person who was perfect. Okay, he's like a perfect material to be a gentleman. Okay, so that is about the first stanza here. So far we have come across a technique such as symbolism, then we had the contrast, right? And also we had flashback technique, right? Because of these words used over here, right? So here, even this one looked, there's a past word, right? Clean, flavored, was, right? It's a past tense, went. That means it's the technique of flashback here. So that is about the first stanza. Okay, simple. Nothing at all in that. Okay? So see how generous the poet is to use so small words, but a big meaning is brought out of this poem. Like there's a very good moral at the end of the poem. That is why they have added this particular poem in your syllabus. So that you guys and also the people around you will not end up having this kind of situation in their life. We have to be physically strong, mentally strong in facing any situation, right? So that is the first stanza. Then the second stanza. And he was always quickly arrayed. So, and he was always, again the flashback, right? He was always quickly, sorry, quietly arrayed. That means he was well dressed. This means he was well dressed. Maybe in a coat and suit, right? In a suit form of dress. Maybe like normally office people are the ones who dress like that, formally dressed. Like they dress in a formal manner, right? Not with a shorts and a t-shirt, but they wear like a proper trouser, a shirt, tucked in shirt, right? Ironed properly. They used to iron the dress properly, and also overcoat, right? So that means they are properly arrayed. That means properly dressed, well dressed. So he was Richard Cory was always, so that means he wasn't at all mistakenly seen by anyone where he wasn't dressed properly. He was always dressed properly whenever he go out. Doesn't matter what he does in the in his own place, but when he goes out, he is a proper person. He's a decent looking person, right? Not with Beckham style and stuff, right? So he was a decent looking person, not like a gangster, right? Then he was always human when he talked. So this repetition of and twice over here, the first line of this stanza, this is a technique we call as anaphora. Anaphora. Anaphora is a literary technique used in poetry generally than other genres than in prose or drama. This technique is normally used in poetry, anaphora. So the repetition of and is what we call as anaphora. Not only that, even here we have anaphora. Even here we have anaphora. Okay. He was always human when he talked. So even this one, the poet has repeated that, right? That means it's repetition. That is also a technique, right? Repetition is also a technique. Repetition, right? He was always human when he talked. That means human. Normally, we have two kind of human. Okay. One person will be very generous in talking. The other one will be using harsh words when talking to someone. So here, this human means he was very kind with words. That means he wasn't rude or harsh in using words. Because nowadays we have people who like in a simple sentence they use bad words in it. any bad word, right? Any bad word, but they just include that in the simple sentence they use in daily life. That is very bad, right? But this person, Richard Cory, he was very human. He was very kind in using words when he talked. Okay, so this is also a flashback again, right? Talked in a sense, past tense. Then, but still he fluttered pulses. So fluttered in a sense, shivering. Okay, he fluttered pulses when he said good morning, and he glittered when he walked. Okay, so here, whenever he says good morning, so this is a pleasant reviews, right? Hi, hello, bye, those things, right? Like, and also good morning, good afternoon, good evening. All these are like pleasantries we use in our daily life. But still, even to use a simple phrase in the morning, he is shivering. He is having an like he's having an uncomfortable in his gut, right? That means he is a scared type of person. He's a reserved person, right? But still he fluttered pulses when he said good morning, and he glittered when he walked. But still he glittered in a sense. He shined. Okay, he was a person who gives light to the world. Okay, so whenever he goes to the downtown, the people who looked at him will see him specially because he is so attractive in nature, right? Dressed properly, right? Because other people around them are beggars, right? They are payment people. So he is obviously shining among them, right? So that is about the second stanza here, which is again simple. So, but did you understand? Yes. I don't get any response. I'm taking this a bit slower so that you can grasp this information, because I don't know whether you'll be studying the same poem again later. But if you study at least the poem once in your life properly, then you won't never forget this. Okay. So that is the second stanza. Then the third one. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king. So here they are exaggerating that Richard Cory was richer than a king. So normally it's a king who will be rich in the country, right? Because the king has the ultimate power, right? He has the treasure of the island and stuff. But here the poet says Richard Cory was richer than the king, symbolizing that he was very rich, super rich, that he can do anything with what he has. Okay, so this is a technique. So we can call this two ways. We can call this as a hyperbole, or we also call this exaggeration. 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 Sorry. Yeah, so we can call, no, but normally this one, we use this one, hyperbole. That is in literature. When you go higher classes, like if you go higher classes in doing literature, then you can use other words. Okay, so that means it's again a technique here. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king.
Miss,
Admirably, yeah, yes,
can richer than a king symbolize wealthiest person?
yeah, yeah. It is symbolizing that he is super rich, he is wealthy enough to do anything, right? So
Thank you.
maybe because welcome, yeah. So maybe because of that only he does these things, okay? Because of him being wealthy, being super wealthy, okay? And admirably schooled in a sense, he was educated. Okay, he was educated, that he have enough knowledge. Educated means he has enough knowledge on things, right? Like on science, on maths, on history, on generally everything. about society, right? He has knowledge, proper knowledge that he can. Um, that's why maybe because of him being educated only, he ended up being rich. Okay, and admirably schooled in every grace. That means he is well. He's well enough to know all the subject matters that is necessary for life.
Well
It means in
behavior.
every, yeah, will you say?
Well behavior.
Yeah, yeah, we can say that also, like be in a behavioral sense and also educational sense, right? Like to the society and also to his personal life, right? All this and like when we consider life, we have to know things to do in our personal life and also in our professional life, right? So if a doctor is treating a patient, he should know according to those things. And if he's an engineer, he should know his own things, right? If it's a teacher, she should know her own things, right? So this Richard Cory is schooled in every grade. That means he knows everything. He's well educated, he's well knowledgeable in all the perspectives. Okay. And then in fine we thought. So here again, we means the payment people. That means the poor class people. So again, symbolism, right? Poor class people. In fine, we thought that he was everything. See, so the people in the payment, the poor class people, are wishing to be in his place, right? They are like kind of, maybe we can say they are jealous, right? They are jealous of looking at Richard Cory because he's rich, he's like educated, but while on the other hand, we have poor class people who have nothing. They don't have food, right? But the rich class people they don't have education because they can't afford education because they can't even afford a simple meal. How can they end up having proper education, right? So in time we thought that so here again, he means he symbolizes Richard Cory. Okay, Richard Cory was everything to to make us wish that we were in his place. So these people who are in the payment, they think that they wanted to be in his place. Normally, even in the present time, like even we think like that, right? Like when so we maybe we are poor, so the poor class people think they want to be rich, right? The uneducated people think they want to be educated, right? The foodless people think they wanted to have a proper meal, right? So this is a thing that general people have, right? Feeling of jealous or envy, right? So these poor class people also are thinking like that. They are wishing to be in his place, right? So that is the end of this third stanza. Okay, and also we have this rhyming scheme here, rhyming words. Wish we were. And also we can say this as alliteration. Alliteration means the same sound will be repeated, maybe in the same line or maybe within 2 or 3 lines. Even here, when worked, that is again alteration. Worked, waited, went without. All these are alteration. Okay, so alteration is also a technique used in this point. So the next stanza, the fourth one, the final stanza in this poem, which is so on we worked. So here we means the poor class people, right? The poor class people. They worked and waited. Waited means they are hoping, right? They are hoping. They have hope in their mind. They're hoping, right? They hope for the light. So light means a better life for them, right? They wanted to have a better life. Maybe they will see light in the future if they work hard. Even now we hear those things, right? Like if we work hard, then we will reach success, right? So same thing is what the poet says over here. So on we worked and waited for the light. So the poor class people are having hope of having a better life in the near future or in the future, right? And went without the meat. So went without is an alteration again. And this meat, so generally, so this poem is about America, right? He is an American poet, right? Edwin Arlington is an American poet. So if you have studied um, history, American Revolution, I don't know whether you studied that or not, but it's
Can
in the grade 11 syllabus, which is the last chapter, right? The eighth chapter in grade 11. Okay, so there we have this revolution about America and how they ended up having no food, and also the people were fighting against their own government, right? Those things happen. So at that time, the American people should, like, they were living just with bread. They didn't have meat at all. They couldn't even look at a piece of meat because they can't find any meat. Okay, so they only live their life because of bread. So that's what the poet symbolizes here. Like he's using that situation over here. Okay. And went without meat, curse the bread. Curse the bread means like because they don't have meat to eat. So they have only bread to eat. So they have to curse it and eat because they can't do anything else. It's what they have to eat. And yeah, there's a spelling mistake here. Curse would be this. It's a typo, I guess. Okay. And went without the meat and cursed the bread. Okay, cursed the bread. And then, and Richard Cory. So again, I will say this is anaphora, repetition of and. Okay, sorry, anaphora. A should be in middle. Okay, anaphora. So that is the repetition of and in the first line of the poem. Okay, and Richard Cory, one calm summer night. So see, this is so the tone over in until here, it's kind of sympathetic, right? We feel sympathetic towards the people who are in the payment, right? Who are suffering, right? But on the other hand, we see this very word which gives us something that that we expect something to happen next, right? Normally, like before a bomb blast, that area will be silent, right? That is how the next second the bomb blast. Generally, that is how it is. Okay, so that is what the poet gives the idea over here. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head. Done with his life. That means he had suicided. He has attempt suicide, and he's dead. We have no more. Like he is no more now, right? So he has died. So that is how the poet symbolizes. Like that is how the poet addresses this poem. So what we can learn through this poem is never to judge a person. Never judge a book by its cover, we say. It's a famous proverb we use. Never to judge a book by its cover. By looking at a person's outward appearance, we can't judge him. We can't say that he's good. We can't say he's good in nature and stuff. Maybe like here, he was good. He was really good, right? He was very kind in talking to people, right? He was schooled. That means he has knowledge, but still he ended up suiciding. That means maybe he faced some personal issues, maybe financial issues, or maybe any other personal issues, like maybe family issues or problems with his wife, right? Like we can only guess that, right? So it's an open ending poem here. So we can, like, if we want to continue on to this poem, you can. So that's what we call this as an open ending poem. Because we can like continue this poem. Okay, so that is how the poet finishes this poem, which is simple, right? Only four stanzas containing 4 lines each. right? So now, so I have added the summary over here. So which is like I have used some sentences and given analysis. Analysis and summary is different. Summary means a short explanation on this point. Analysis means using techniques, quotation, all those things. That is how you have to write in the essay. But this is not that. This is just the like. So if you read this summary, you can understand the point. That is how I have written this one. So it's very. It will be very easy if you refer this, so that it will be easy for you to answer the question. Okay, so now we'll look into some themes. Yeah. So when we consider themes, so themes are generally what we call as morals. Okay. Themes are what we call as morals. Morals or main ideas through the poem or any genre of literature. Like the thing that we get from from the poetry or the prose. What we can use for our life. Okay. So in this poem, we have a theme of appearance versus reality. So here, Richard Cory appeared to be a very good person, right? But in reality, he ended up suiciding. That means he had some problems behind him. So that is one of the important theme you can use in this poem, where they usually ask in questions. This is the theme they usually ask for this poem. Then, second one is there is no such thing as a perfect human being. So there are people who say that I'm perfect, right? I have everything. But still, maybe like rich people, they don't have happiness, right? And poor people who are happy don't have money, right? So that is how life is. That is how society is. So there is no thing called as perfect. And I have like normally I've heard this phrase that is there is no crime which is perfect. Okay, there is nothing like perfect crime or perfect person, perfect human being, right? That is that. Then the grass is always greener on the other side. Even this is also a proverb, right? Like we think, so the person, let's say if it's me, so I think about the people who are higher than me, right? I look at them and wish to be them, right? But when you go to their place, you wish to be someone more than them. So we always compare things, right? We always do that. So that is also a theme here. And then appearance can be deceptive. We people, we human, are always been like we always fall into this trap of deception. Yes, we are easily fooled. The same thing happened in this poem. At first, when you read this poem, you will think, nice poem. He's a good person. It'll be a good ending, a happy ending, right? But then it turned out to be he died, right? He suicided, which is really sad to hear. It's not a murder, right? It's a suicide. He himself put a bullet through his head. It means suicide using a gun, right? And then all that glitters is not gold. Whatever we think or whatever we wish to become, it's not good. Sometimes it's not good for us. And can also false human values or false social values, that is the society. The social gap. Social gap means the poor class and the rich class, the rich. So here in this poem, the rich person here is Richard Cory, right? And the poor class are the poor class people or the payment people. Right? That is how in this poem it is. Wealth cannot guarantee happiness. That is also really true, right? Wealth can always guarantee happiness, right? That is about the themes. Then we have about techniques. So when it comes to techniques, did I miss something over here? Okay, no. So when it comes to techniques, we have symbolism, right? Symbolism, as I said you before, right? V symbolizes. Who does V symbolizes in the poem? Here V symbolizes the poor class people, and he symbolizes Richard Cory, right? That is symbolism. Then we had anaphora, right? Anaphora was there. Alteration was there. That is payment, people, wish, were, worked without, went without, when walked. Right? These are alterations. Anaphora, alteration, repetitions, right? And also we had symbolism, hyperbole. This is one of the very important technique in this poem, hyperbole. And also we had flashback technique. Flashback because throughout the poem, the poet has used past tense. Worked, went, were. Then we have thought, schooled, glittered, fluttered, talked, arrayed, flavored, favored, looked, went, right? Everything in past tense. That means it's a flashback technique. Flashback. Other than that, I have also added some more things. So, symbolism, I said you. Alteration is done. Repetition is also, I said you. Right? Repetition of the verse. He was always. That is repetition. Metaphor. When it comes to metaphor, we have the metaphor, which is, we have three metaphors in this poem. Okay, metaphor means comparison of two different things without like or as. So without like or as, if we compare two things, that is metaphor. So one thing is Ridana King. So Richard Cory is compared to be a king, which is a metaphor. Richard Cory is compared to be a king, that is metaphor. The second one is this meat and bread. This is one thing, okay, meat and bread, which symbolizes their insecure feeling or the thing that they don't have. That is also a metaphor. And light is a metaphor used to symbolize hope. Okay, so that these are the three metaphors they have used in this poem, which is again easy. Yeah. Then we have irony. Irony means, so what I said you before, right? Irony, when it comes to irony means it's sarcastic tone, right? He himself put a bullet to his head, right? That is irony, right? Those things, simple things are irony over here. And then visual imagery. Throughout this poem, we have visual imagery. Not only in this poem, in every other poem, we have visual imagery. Example, let's say, so we have payment. So whenever you come across this payment, you think of a payment street. You think of a street, right? Gentleman, you can imagine a gentleman in your head. That is imagery, right? Visual imagery. Crown, you can imagine a crown when you read the word crown, right? Then people also we can. Fluttered pulses, even that we can imagine. King, we can imagine. Right? So normally we have, not only in this poem, in every other poem, we have visual imagery. So whenever you come across a question to write for you to write a literary technique used in this line, you can always use visual imagery because no teacher can say that there is no visual imagery in a particular line. We always end up having visual imagery. Okay, then anaphora. As I said, repetition of and is anaphora. And about rhyming scheme. Rhyming scheme means the ending part of this part, like in everything over here. So we have downtown, crown, which is rhyming, right? OWN. That is the same letters in both the words. Downtown, crown, rhymes, right? Him, slim, rhymes, right? It is rhyming. So that means for these two we say A and A. Okay, A. For him and slim we say B. So this is AB rhyme scheme. AB rhyme scheme. So that is the rhyming scheme pattern of this poem. Normally we don't usually have rhyming scheme in every poem, but normally, example, we have rhyming scheme in the poem to the Nile. Then we have in the eagle. We have to the night, to the evening star. Right? Only in simple poems like that we have. Like normally poems by William Shakespeare or John Donne, William Blake. Right? They are the ones who normally write poems with rhyming scheme. Other than them, it's rare to find poems with rhyming scheme. But this is one such poem with rhyming scheme. So this is AB rhyming scheme. Not only here, we can also see here. Arrayed seed, right? Talked, walked. Again AB, right? King, everything. See, king, everything. AA, right? Grace and place. AA. So BB. So again, it's AB rhyming scheme. And then the last stanza, we have light night, bread head, AB. I hope you understood how I got this AB. This and this will be together. Light night, AA, bread and head, BB. So throughout the poem, we have this AB rhyme scheme. So generally, we only look into this first paragraph, first stanza of the poem. That is how we find the rhyme scheme. If it's a sonnet means a 14-line poem. In that, it differs. But this one is not a sonnet. Sonnet has 40 lines, but this one has around 16 lines, right? Yeah. That is that. Then about the questions and the context question. Before the essay one, we'll discuss the context. Okay, first one. So I have given these 2 lines, which is, so on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat and cursed the bread. So from where are these lines taken from? It's from the poem Richard Cory. So you can simply write Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. I have written the short forms here, but you have to write the full name. Okay, don't use this word, okay, here, but this is just the capital letters of the name. Okay. Edwin Arlington Robinson. Use the full names without mistake. And Richard Cory should be within quotation like this when you write the answer for this one. Okay, the next one. Who are we? So who are we in this poem? The we in this poem is the payment people. Right, the payment people. Or you can say poor class people. Both the answers are correct. Poor class people or payment people. Who are we? Poor class people or payment people. Then, what does light symbolize? So this is a symbolism I said you before. Light symbolizes what? Hope. Right? Light symbolizes hope. The last one. What is the technique used in the second line and what is the use of it? So the second line is poem is this one. And went without the meat and cursed the bread. So what is the technique used in this poem? This part? You can come with 2 or more techniques. Right? One technique you can say. So I'll discuss all the techniques in this line. Okay? And in this particular line. So one thing you can say is alteration. Went without, right? Alteration. If that is the answer, you have to try the use of it. What is the use of this alteration in this poem? In this line, alteration brings out the idea of saying that they don't have proper food to eat. They don't have a proper meal, a simple meal as usual people, because they are poor. That is alteration. Okay. The second technique you can use, so that one is alteration. Right, alteration. The second technique you can use. The second technique you can use is metaphor. Right, metaphor. Because meat and bread symbolizes what? You can say metaphor, or else you can say symbolism also. Right? It symbolizes, so the use of that is that it symbolizes that the people were so poor they can't even afford meat for their daily meals. Because in America they usually have meat for all the 3 meals. But here these poor class people they can't even properly have bread, because even the bread they get from the government will be rotten ones, like which is not good to eat, right? Rotten bread, that is what they end up having. But still they have to eat that because they don't have any other thing to eat, right? So that is that. The second technique, first one is alteration, second one is metaphor. Third technique you can say is, as I said you before, I said you write in whatever the sentence they give, you can use visual imagery. Visual imagery, right? Here the visual imagery is meat and bread. Simple. We can imagine meat, right? When we say the word meat, we can imagine maybe a piece of a chicken, right? Or maybe a piece of beef or mutton, whatever. And even it's bread, we can imagine a loaf of bread. So that is visual imagery. So what is the use of it? That it like it gives some hype to the poem, right? It gives the natural features of the poem and make us the readers to understand the poem better. So that is the use of it. So according to different people, this use of it will change. So it just you have to write what comes to your mind. Okay, that is that. So that is about this context question. And then about this, yeah, we have the essay ones, which is I have provided you with 2 essay type questions. One is explain how different social standards are depicted in this poem, Richard Cory. So different social standards, like Richard Cory symbolizes the rich class or the middle class people, right? Who are wealthy enough. And on the other hand, we have the poor class people who are jealous of Richard Cory, who lives in the pavement with no proper dress, right? So this is very unfair, right? The same society where they have rich people, they also have poor people. Why can't they neutralize it, right? They can live in a society properly, helping each other, right? So that is how we have to write this essay here. We have to argue over here, right? So for that, you have to write an introduction paragraph, then body paragraphs. You can provide 2 or 3 body paragraphs and also a conclusion. I hope you know how to write an essay. You would have been provided enough knowledge at school about that, I guess. If not, maybe in the next upcoming classes, or you can join my classes to know about that. Contact the coordinator of Web2. So he'll provide you information of how to join to my classes, how you can join to my classes. Yeah, that is the first essay type question. So how to write an essay, the specific words you can use in essays, those things I provide in my paid classes. Okay, the next one, the second question. Explain the use of techniques and how it affects the overall point of view of the poem, Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. So here I have asked the question of techniques. Here it's not about themes, it's about techniques. So we have symbolism, anaphora, alteration, then metaphor, visual imagery, right? You can get around 4 to 5 techniques like that I have provided in this tutor itself, right? And then you have to give an explanation as an essay, providing of what you think the poet has used this techniques for. Why have he used this specific techniques? Maybe he could have ended up using other techniques, right? But why did he use these techniques and why and how did these techniques hype the poem? How did these techniques help the poem to enhance it? So that is the answer you have to write for the second type of essay question. Yeah, I hope you understood the whole thing, and obviously you can read the context and the summary I have provided, because I don't want to waste the time by reading this summary I have given, right? If not, like if I end up reading here, you won't read by yourself, right? It's better if you read. It's a small summary I have provided with simple words in it, right? So if you want to improve your essay writing, context writing, and to gain more knowledge on all the theory lessons and stuff, you can always contact the coordinator of WebTutor, or you can directly message me. I like my number is in the group, so you can contact me if you want to join individually for literature, or else you can join the group sessions after a group is been formed in the group, right? So that's all for today's class. I hope you understood. Yeah. Okay then. We'll And if you have any doubts about any poems, you can contact me through WhatsApp. Yeah, you can get my number in the group, from the group. You're welcome. Okay then. We'll meet on another interactive session, inshallah. Okay then. So this is Minna Zanas signing off. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Bye. Bye bye. Thank you for joining.